Welcome, time for some art fun. Today, we're going to test out some new supplies from Ohuhu, so stick around. I have been following this brand, Ohuhu, ever since I saw these exact supplies tested on Drawing with Waffles years ago at this point, and I've never gotten them for myself because I've never really used alcohol markers until a set were sent to me by ZSCM, a really small company, a little while back. Loved the ZSCW water-based markers, the kind of Tombow dupes, but the alcohol markers, some of them were already dry when they came, and some of them dried very quickly after, so I actually gifted them away. So I back to being without any alcohol markers. So when Ohuhu, the very, let's call it the GOAT, you know what I mean, of non-Copic alcohol-based markers reached out to me and said they wanted to send me some to try, I really jumped at the chance as quickly as I could. But because I don't really have alcohol markers and haven't used them, I don't have anything to use them with. I didn't have any marker paper. So they also sent me this beautiful, ginormous 8.3 by 11.7, 200 GSM, 120 pound marker paper. So I'm just gonna get it out of this wrapper. What's funny is that when I gifted the ZSCW markers away, I actually bought the person I gifted them to this exact marker pad. So I've never used it, but because I trust this particular brand, just based on seeing enough reviews over years and years of their stuff, I knew this was probably the best option for me to give them something to get started. So I was really happy that they gifted this to me to try for myself. It has this fun pattern, I don't know if you can hear that, but it has this like texture. It feels very waterproof. It almost looks like a Van Gogh floral or something, the pattern. And it has a really nice thick, soft elastic, and that is very, very thick. And as you can see, it's not super tight. So it's tight enough to keep it closed, but it's not tight enough to leave a dent. And I really like that. I really don't like when sketchbooks get dented by the elastic. It kind of bothers me. So let's get this little label off. And what I want to do, and let me just show you that label, both sides. So 78 sheets, double that for both sides, but I don't think I'm really planning on using both sides of this paper. Ooh, okay, so when you open it, the first thing you see is this enormous like backing. It feels really good. It feels almost like silicone, and that goes behind your paper so that it doesn't at all go through to the next sheet, bleed through to the next sheet. It also has perforations on every page. So if you really love a piece that you make and you don't want to just leave it in your sketchbook, you can rip it out. And each page feels kind of coated. It feels smooth, very, very smooth. And that's important for blending, because one of the reasons I'm really interested in alcohol markers, and again, just never really, it felt like a very expensive medium to get into, especially if you're going to get into something like Copics. So I never got into it, but I really like that you can blend so seamlessly. So in the box came this enormous, it feels like an A4. Here's my current sketchbook I'm working in. This is an A5. This is a toned tan sketchbook. And look at that. I mean, it's really, I'm halfway through it and it's really getting chunky. This is the size compared to this one. I mean, I don't even know if this one's fitting all the way in this shot. Like, that's just like that. It's like exactly the width of this shot. So just to give you a sense, that's where this one measures out for an A5. So in addition to this sketchbook and this set of markers, which we'll get into momentarily, was this packet, just like an informational, inspirational, like how inspirational is that? That actually is giving me a lot of desire to jump in. But this says the Ohuhu paper pad. Okay. It gives you directions of how to rip a sheet out carefully. It shows you, it's called a paper block, that little silicone-y type sheet. You can actually blend on it too, I believe. And it has all that information in several languages between both sides. So very cool that it comes with this, but honestly, it's just stuff like that that makes me want to get started. Like, look at the wave. That's the blending I'm talking about that you can do with alcohol markers while they're wet. So one thing I've heard from a lot of people, well, that's cool. It has the skew if you need to buy a replacement. And it comes with its own case, which I really like. I like when things come with their own case because I struggle. Like, for instance, this is my set of Holbein acrylic gouache, and I bought this little thing from Target to keep it in. because if I don't, it'll get just all over my studio. So let's see. I told them I was interested in all of their alcohol markers as long as it was, oh, okay, wow. Yep. How cool. Look at that. So they sent all of these markers. This also has the same style of paper guard, I think they called it. If you're coloring on thin paper, please put this pad between your coloring sheets to prevent bleed through. This would work for a little sketchbook like this perfectly, but for this big boy, I'm glad that it comes with its own set. So this is a set of pastel colors, and what I've read and seen on YouTube over and over is that it can be frustrating when you get a set and isn't enough mid-tones or like transition colors, and so a pastel set is perfect for that because you can layer these and you can make this darker, but you can't make something lighter when it comes to alcohol markers. So I'm really excited that it's this set. All of them come with a chisel tip for doing giant areas and a brush tip, which is like the most popular. That's what makes the Copic brand so expensive and made them really take off, was the brush tip. So it's got the Ohuhu branding. It's got the silver writing, Ohuhu art marker. These are alcohol-based markers, and they're all double-sided like that. So the first thing I want to do, and I like that both sides have the name, the number on both caps. The caps, I wonder if they work on either side. Let's see. Yeah, they actually work on either side, so it doesn't matter if one rolls away, and they have these roll guards, so that's nice. So if you're using this and you put it down, the roll guard that's already on the back of the cap will stop it from rolling, and the roll guard on the cap you're not using also won't roll away. But if there's no need to remember which side goes on which because the caps fit both ends, I think that's a huge deal. Some of the older iterations of these markers, people had these comments like, oh, it just had the number, it didn't have a name, or it was only on one cap instead of both caps, and there was no way to tell which cap goes where. I think they've really addressed this over time and perfected these markers, again, based on other reviews I've seen. This is the colorless blender. A huge deal when it comes to blending alcohol markers. So again, I've watched alcohol marker videos for years and just was so nervous to dive in. So I'm very excited that if I'm going to dive in, it's going to be with a brand that I've seen reviewed so many times from huge channels that seem happy with their stuff over years and years. It's not just a one and done. And one thing I do plan to do is come back and do a video series updating you on anything I've reviewed before so that you can see how I'm feeling about it. I've already done that with my travel setup from Etsy, and the second video is getting a lot of love for people saying like, thank you for coming back and checking this again. We really appreciate it. It came with these swatch cards, but I'm also going to swatch it in the sketchbook, of course. And this is the actual packet, like the information that comes in the box about this Honolulu 48-piece set. So I just did a little flip through for you there. And once I'm done swatching, I will make a test piece and see how I like them. And I do think it'll be really cool to come back and see how they work for future pieces and test them over months and months in the future and see how long they last, because I think dry out is a big concern with a lot of the less expensive I don't want to say imitation because this is its own set, and it's not like any alcohol marker is by nature an imitation of a Copic. That's like wild. It's a whole category of art supply. It's like calling all tissues Kleenex or something, but that is how people think about it because that's certainly the best known brand. I would say this is probably the second best known brand, probably due to people like Drawing with Waffles, using them over time and reviewing them over and over. A lot of the big art channels on YouTube have reviewed Ohuhu over time. So while I was swatching these whole set out, and I did take a lot of time and did a lot of math to try to figure out how to make it work on this sheet, and I used a little rectangle form to try to help me make this aesthetic and pleasing for you to watch these go down. I did a double layer on the bottom to see how dark I could make each color. And when I was doing the swatches, I did start to get concerned that okay, well, with 2 layers, these only get so dark. So I wonder if it'll take 3, 4, 5 layers or whatever to get a true range of values, because to make anything stand out, you're going to need a range of light to dark. And again, I'd rather have too many lights than too many darks, because you can't lighten up a dark, but you can darken up a light. But my concern was I didn't see like any true darks. I didn't see anything that would help me really deepen up a tone, like a dark brown or a navy blue or like a deep purple, like nothing. There's no super dark color in this set at all. So that's, having made a piece with this, that really is my, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. That's my only negative feedback on these, is I would love to see 1 or 2 colors in this set that are truly dark. It doesn't have a black, it doesn't have a brown, like a dark brown, it doesn't have a navy, it doesn't have a dark purple, it doesn't have a dark red, it doesn't have a dark anything. There's no dark nothing, no dark green. So it will be really hard to use this set to make like moody forests or anything. That's not what it's for. They have those sets. They have a big range of different sets. If you look on their website or if you go to their Amazon storefront, they have a lot of different sets. This happens to be the Honolulu set, so it's obviously more for beach scenes. And I thought about making like a shell or maybe even a jellyfish or something like that, or just a beach scene like that the back of that booklet had, because that really did inspire me. But in the end, it can only inspire me so much when I'm internally and eternally motivated by cute animals. So I decided to make a cute animal for my test piece, and not just any cute animal. I decided to make my dog. So hold on and I'll show you what that looks like. But this is what it looks like. It does go through the paper, but it doesn't bleed through to the next page because you use your little sheet. So this is my dog. I did decide to do a stylized version of a picture I took of him just hanging out on the couch. I thought it would be fun to do a stylized version because you can use whatever colors you want, and it's not like I was planning on using realistic colors. And I often do this when I'm testing a new supply, like the super granulating watercolors. I made a painting of my dog with blues and purples, a very unrealistic color scheme, and I just really enjoy that. I think it's fun to do my real dog but in unreal colors. It's fun. You can do, he's an all black dog with a little bit of white on him, so you can pick any color. It's going to be fine. And it's really fun to run pictures of him through Canva, through different filters, to bring out the actual colors that are in his what appears to be black fur, but is actually like auburn and purple and all kinds of cool colors. Beige is in there sometimes, depending on how the sun hits him. So I did this gradient background because I wanted to test the blending right out of the gate. And I really enjoyed how they blended. It stayed wet on the page. There's a reason this sketchbook is for markers. It keeps the surface is so smooth, and it must be coated with something, that it keeps the markers wet and ready to blend longer. But it's not like other materials when they're wet. If your hand like grazes through it, it's going to smear everywhere. It really doesn't smear. So it'll stay where it is. It'll stay put. But if you wipe additional alcohol on top of it, it'll continue to move and groove and allow you to blend. So I did want the darkest part of this drawing to be right in the middle of his face, and that's where the deepest shadows were in the picture that I took. And I'll tell you right now, and you'll see this, I went over this particular area with the darkest marker I could find, which is this gray, as well as the next darkest marker I could find, which was like a lavender type color. And I went over it and over it and over it so many times, and I just couldn't get it super dark. So my last step, and you'll see this at the end, but when I was done, the colors of the fur were too similar in value to the color of the background. I thought this background was going to be so light that, you know, my dog Tuffy would really stand out against that background, but it was still too similar to the tone, to the value of the whole dog, even with the middle being as dark as I could make it. So I ended up, as a last step, taking one water-based marker in a dark gray and deepening up, so doing some strokes in the middle of the face, and also taking a number 1 micron, which is like a fat-tipped, almost like a felt tip marker, and doing extremely fat versions of the black lines that you see here. I originally did the black lines in the smallest micron that I had, which was a 0.2 the smallest one I had available. And I went back over with like the 10x size marker, and I really loved the effect. I thought it was so cute, and I am a mixed media artist, so throwing some mixed media in there is never going to scare me away and make me upset. It was wonderful. It was a super fun experience. I loved this drawing so much, and it's a huge drawing, so it's really fun to open my, basically A4 sketchbook and see this enormous drawing of my dog as the welcome to your 29th sketchbook. So I think that it's really important to note, even with layers, the layering did better when I waited for the layers to dry. So when I tried to just go over and over and over and over the area, it didn't darken up a ton. But when I let that dry all the way and then added another layer, it was much more obvious. So that's the first tip I can give you if you're like me and you're just starting to consider getting into this medium. The other thing I'll say is I have really bad allergies, and I'm very sensitive to strong smelling materials. Not as sensitive as Sandy Hester. She's very sensitive, and she does a ton of videos on that. This is what I mean, by the way. Look at this. Look at the value range. His head almost blends into the background so much you can only see the middle of his face. So let me know what you think of how I fix that. But alcohol markers do smell, and you're breathing them in, and it's hard to breathe them in, but these weren't super hard to breathe in. This drawing took me over 40 minutes all in, and I was fine. I didn't get asthma. I wasn't sick. I didn't feel nauseous. I didn't get a headache. It was just like you're aware you're smelling alcohol the whole time that you're drawing. I really enjoyed this medium. I really enjoyed making this drawing, and thank you so much, Ohuhu, for sending me these awesome materials. I'm looking forward to using them again and again. This was super fun. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, it really helps the channel, and until next time, remember, create something cute.